What's happening, guys? Sam Adams here, and welcome to a brand new episode of Caffeinate today for July the 11th of 2019. Of course, for those that are brand new to the show, welcome on in. And if you don't know, this is a daily gaming news podcast where I bring you the hottest gaming news from around the industry, and I keep you up to date on everything happening in the industry we all love. And today, we are covering breaking news that literally happened about 30 seconds after I got off the air yesterday, which is the fact that there's a brand new model of the Nintendo Switch coming down the pipe relatively soon. September 20th of 2019, we have the Nintendo Switch Lite hitting store shelves. On top of that, Nintendo is quietly updating the regular version of the Nintendo Switch as well, something that could be worth mentioning if they use the power to their potential over there at Nintendo. Then there is not going to be a Switch Pro this year, and the Lite won't kill the 3DS according to Doug Bowser. We'll talk more about what that means for the future of the Nintendo Switch lifecycle. Amazon is developing a Lord of the Rings MMO. Psychonauts 2 has been delayed. Gasp. Yeah, actually it has. Then Modern Warfare is getting some gameplay today. And finally, we will talk about Shenmue III because backers have to purchase a season pass and the deluxe edition separately. Not a good situation considering the game was crowdfunded to begin with, but that is our lineup for today's show. And again, if you are brand new, I do hope you enjoy what I bring to the table. And if you do, consider clicking that follow button. Consider clicking that subscribe button if you are on youtube.com/SamuelAdamsMedia, or subscribe via a podcast service of your choice, whether it be Anchor, whether it be Spotify, whether it be Apple Podcast or Google Podcast. I'm out there on all of them. But without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into today's top stories. Nintendo Switch Lite is a smaller, cheaper Switch built exclusively for handheld play, launching in September for $199. There is a new Switch on the way, and it's a whole lot smaller. Today, Nintendo revealed the Switch Lite, designed as a less expensive alternative to the original tablet console hybrid. It comes in at $199, $100 less than the base unit, and for that price, you get a streamlined version of the Switch, but also a few caveats. The Switch Lite is designed explicitly as a handheld. You can't connect it to your TV, and the Joy-Con controllers are built right in. The two systems will complement each other and coexist in the marketplace, Nintendo of America President Doug Bowser tells The Verge. There are a number of improvements with the Switch Lite. It is significantly lighter, for one thing. I played with one for around 20 minutes, the author says, and the difference was noticeable, particularly when you pick up an original Switch afterwards. The Switch Lite also feels more sturdy since the Joy-Con controllers are now a part of the device. The controller layout is largely identical on the Lite, though the new Switch has a proper D-pad, replacing the not-so-precise directional buttons on the original. A good choice, in my opinion. Nintendo says the Lite features slightly improved battery life. The company wouldn't get any more specific than that due to a more powerful and power-efficient chip layout, as well as the lack of additional batteries in the built-in controllers. The Switch Lite also does away with the device's controversial kickstand, which did cause some headaches whenever the Switch first came out. It's also just a really nice piece of hardware. The Lite comes in multiple colors at launch, yellow, gray, and turquoise, as well as a special light gray Pokemon Sword and Shield edition, and they all have a pleasant matte texture that feels great to hold. And while the screen is slightly smaller, it didn't bother me, the author says, much during intense battles in Breath of the Wild. Despite the change in size, the resolution for the Switch Lite's display remains at 720p, the same as the Nintendo Switch, though it no longer has a brightness sensor, so you can only adjust the screen brightness manually. The new device has a 5.5-inch touch display compared to the 6.2-inch for its predecessor, and if you take a single Joy-Con off of an original Switch, you will have a good idea of the size of the new version. There are some other nice touches as well, like bezels and an air vent that match the color of the hardware so they blend in better. Overall, it is a solid device and exactly what you would expect from this kind of refresh. The smaller iteration of the Switch has been rumored for some time, along with reports that a more powerful version of the console is also coming down the pipe, and we'll talk more about that tidbit in just a couple of moments. But the Nintendo Switch Lite is real, it's a thing, it is happening, and it is going to be coming out on September the 20th. And so what are the thoughts on the Nintendo Switch Lite? In my opinion, a very good-looking piece of hardware. And I've said it before on various videos and pieces of content that I've put out, but there is something about the way Nintendo designs their hardware that really just connects with me. And by Connex, I mean they're conning me out of my money because I still want this thing, even though I know that I'm never going to be playing any kind of Nintendo games that are specifically built for the Nintendo Switch. I don't know how they do it, but even whenever the 2DS was revealed, I was like, man, that's a cool looking piece of hardware. There is just something about the design team over at Nintendo. They know how to make something that really does connect with the core gaming audience, and man, does this thing look it's really, really cool. I would say if I had to choose a color, I would probably go with the gray. But with that being said, what kind of audience is this targeting? Quite frankly, a very broad audience, because in my opinion, a lot of people don't simply use the docking feature on the Nintendo Switch to begin with, and so whenever you have one that is specifically designed to be a handheld, that just kind of makes sense. And of course, as we are going to see in the next story, this is not going to be replacing the 3DS, but come this holiday, around the November/December timeframe, this is going to be probably the hottest piece of hardware on the market for 2019. And I mean that, truly. Of course, next year we will have the Xbox and the PlayStation going back at it head-to-head as they did back in 2013-2014, but then you have this year, where this is the only brand new piece of hardware, and it's a good, affordable piece of hardware that is very much so connecting with a very broad audience, from the youngest of the young to the oldest of the old. This is a relatively affordable way to get in on a very, very awesome piece of Nintendo hardware that I would say represents a second coming, if you will, a rebirth of the Nintendo name. We are in the golden age of Nintendo come again in 2019. Very cool time to be a fan of the Nintendo Switch. But again, if you do want to check out the Nintendo Switch Lite, it has a slew of new features. Some features are lacking, but at the end of the day, for $200, it is not a bad piece of tech to go ahead and get behind. However, if you want to buy a regular Nintendo Switch, you could be getting a bit of a beefier model, but not probably that much. Nintendo is quietly updating the CPU on the original Switch. While all eyes are on the new Nintendo Switch Lite, Nintendo has quietly made a request to make some changes to the original Nintendo Switch. These changes include a new chip and processor that could theoretically improve the performance of the original Switch. As reported by The Verge, Nintendo submitted a new filing to the FCC requesting permission to alter an existing device. In this case, to make changes to FCC ID BK-EHAC001, which refers to the original Nintendo Switch. Nintendo requested a Class 2 permissive change in order to update the system-on-chip NAND memory type, whatever that could be, and a CPU board. This means Nintendo is looking at least to update the NVIDIA Tegra processor or the Switch's SoC for a newer one. To whom it may concern, they say. This is to request a Class 2 permissive change for FCC, again, the ID that represents the Nintendo Switch, to do all of the things that we've already discussed them doing. So here's the thing. A new chip could mean a host of minor improvements, or it could mean nothing much at all. Nintendo's existing Tegra X1 processor is hardly outdated, but a new chip could be necessary for manufacturing and cost reasons. And so, could we be seeing some kind of performance enhancement? You very well could. But you could very well not. Of course, it's about time to kind of refresh the Nintendo Switch hardware lineup. Of course, we have the Lite, which is pretty much on par with the Nintendo Switch as we have it today, but something of a new processor could potentially make a longer battery life. It could potentially improve the performance of the Nintendo Switch marginally. And of course, we have seen this before with the boost mode that was introduced on the Nintendo Switch a couple of months back whenever the VR stuff began to roll out. But we won't be getting any kind of Switch Pro this year, according to Doug Bowser, which is very disappointing for those that did want a bit of a beefier version of the Nintendo Switch that wasn't just a minor upgrade. Nintendo has claimed there will be no more new Switch hardware releasing in 2019 following yesterday's unveiling of the Switch Lite. The new handheld-only device is one of two models that were long rumored to be in production, as well as a more advanced model dubbed the Switch Pro in many reports that would target hardcore gamers. Both devices were expected to launch this year, starting with the Lite in the summer. However, in an interview with CNET, Nintendo of America President Doug Bowser said the Lite will be the only new Nintendo Switch hardware this year. With Switch Lite launching on September 20th and likely to be Nintendo's big hardware push for Christmas, it is possible the Switch Pro has been pushed to 2020. Elsewhere in the interview, Bowser said the Lite and flagship Switch will complement each other and coexist in the marketplace, and expects the Lite will help towards Nintendo's previously stated goal of selling multiple Switch units to each household. I could see this fitting into a household where there are multiple players and one flagship Nintendo Switch. Speaking to The Verge, Bowser also confirmed Nintendo has no plans to discontinue the 3DS now that it has a new handheld on the way. "We'll continue to support our 3DS family of systems as long as there is demand," he said. The Verge also reports a FCC filing showing the original Switch model getting an upgrade, as we just did report on. But what's up with the Nintendo Switch Pro? Because again, that sounds like a phenomenal idea, especially considering you have games like Doom and The Witcher 3 that are big flagship titles on the Nintendo Switch now. What's the future of the Switch Pro? And I would say, if I had to guess what Nintendo is up to, they need a piece of hardware to, number one, deliver this holiday season, but then what about 2020? If you put out a Switch Pro alongside the next Xbox and potentially even the next PlayStation, you at least have a brand new piece of hardware out there competing that is a little bit beefier than what you would get from your traditional kind of Nintendo Switch versus a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox One X. I don't know what the next Xbox is going to be called, but to have some kind of new hardware next year would simply make them a bigger competitor in the hardware space. Now, I think that the success of a Switch Pro hinges on the ability to upgrade existing Switch games. So as I said, with The Witcher 3, of course, running at a very low resolution, very low textures, pretty much a very poor looking version of the game, if we are being honest with each other here. If you could release some kind of Switch Pro that upped that resolution, upped those textures, upped that frame rate, that's whenever you could get people on board to play really good games on the go. I mean, I would be down to get a Switch Pro if it meant having an experience that was similar, or at least closer to, that of a PlayStation 4. But with that being said, nothing coming in 2019, unfortunately. However, 2020 is shaping up to be a really cool looking year. But if you are a fan of Lord of the Rings, I have good news for you. Amazon is developing a Lord of the Rings MMO. That's whenever you say what, because why? Amazon Game Studios has announced its latest project, a Lord of the Rings massively multiplayer online game that Amazon is developing in partnership with Leyou. It's planned as a free-to-play title for both PC and consoles. The title was actually announced last year by Leyou-owned Athlon Games. At the time, Athlon was said to be working with an unnamed partner developer, which was revealed to be Amazon Game Studios. A pretty powerful partner to have. According to Athlon's announcement last fall, the new MMO is set at a long time before the events of Lord of the Rings, exploring lands, people, and creatures never seen before by fans of the Tolkien universe. That may sound similar to Amazon's upcoming Lord of the Rings TV series, which is also said to be set in Middle-earth long before J.R.R. Tolkien's main series. According to Amazon, the show and the game are being developed separately and are unrelated projects. Thank God, because that would be a disaster. Sounds a lot like Deliverance is what that was, I think? No, it wasn't Deliverance. There was an MMO that was tied in with a TV show that came on Sci-Fi. Defiant, that's what I'm thinking of. And it just absolutely tanked. It was not a good time whatsoever. Between Amazon and Leyou, there is a considerable amount of previous MMO experience. Leyou owns Warframe developer Digital Extremes, and Amazon Game Studios is already deep in the development process for its first MMO, New World, which should help calm fears that such a beloved IP is being handled by relative newcomers. Amazon's Lord of the Rings MMO also won't be the first MMO based in Tolkien's world. The Lord of the Rings Online has been around since 2007, offering players a new adventure to play alongside the events of the trilogy during the War of the Ring, with the most recent update released in October of 2018. There are no details yet regarding when Amazon expects to release the MMO or on which consoles it will be available, but we are expecting to get more details as development continues. And so, for fans of Lord of the Rings, a very cool piece of news here, if I do say so myself. But Lord of the Rings, perfect for an MMO, of course, as we have seen with the success of Lord of the Rings Online, there is definitely an audience for that. And if a brand new experience can be created between these two partners, then I say why not? Because there's always room for a really, really good MMO. And I will say, that's something that I hear echoed in the community pretty often. There is a deep desire for a fantastic MMO. The next World of Warcraft, so to speak. Now, will this new Lord of the Rings game be the next World of Warcraft? No, probably not. But there is still this drive, there's still this desire. People want a new MMO experience. And hey, you keep doing stuff until you see what is successful, and this is certainly Amazon doing stuff with Leyou. So we will see when the release date of this one ends up being. I would say you're not going to be seeing it until 2020 if I had to guess at the earliest, but it's cool to see that a Lord of the Rings MMO is going to be coming with Amazon money involved. Notice how I didn't just say Amazon money. That's what we're looking at. But if that game comes out in 2020, then guess what? It will be coming out in the same year as Psychonauts 2, because Psychonauts 2 has been delayed until next year. Double Fine also confirms the game will still release on PS4 after the acquisition by Microsoft, as announced at E3 of 2019. Psychonauts will not release in 2019 as planned. Developer Double Fine, which was recently acquired by Microsoft, has announced that the adventure game is shifting to 2020. The news was announced in a post to Fig, the crowdfunding website where the game raised $3.9 million of funding back in 2016. In the post, Double Fine said the delay, while it is tough, is the right thing to do to make Psychonauts 2 a better game. We are now targeting next year for release. We know it's always disappointing when you have to wait a bit longer, but we also know that you are an amazing supportive bunch who, just like us, want the game to be as good as possible, so we are hopeful you will understand, Double Fine said. Double Fine also confirmed in a blog post that despite being bought by Microsoft, the studio will still honor Psychonauts 2's release on every promised platform. That means the game will still come to PS4, it's also coming to Xbox One and PC. Switch, baby. Bring that mother to Switch. While you have to wait until 2020 to play Psychonauts 2, Double Fine's next game, the 3D action roguelike game called Rad, will be released on August 20th for console and PC, and is being published by Bandai Namco. And so, we have the delay of Psychonauts 2. To be quite honest with you, everybody's been waiting on Psychonauts 2 for so long. What's another few months to wait? That's pretty much the way that I see this. Now, that being said, I didn't back the game, so I'm sure they have a bit of a different opinion on that. But again, as the saying goes, a bad game is bad forever. A delayed game is only delayed until it gets released. Something along those lines. Somebody from Nintendo said it. I'm sure that I'm going to get some hate in the comments for not knowing exactly who said that off of the bat. It might have been Miyamoto. I'm not exactly sure, but the sentiment is what you need to know here. If a game is released and it's bad, it's always going to be bad and people will always not enjoy it. But if a game is delayed, then a game is delayed. And then it comes out and it's better off for the delay, and fans are happier because of the delay. And so that's probably what you're going to be getting with Psychonauts 2. But if you did want to pick it up, it's coming out on the PS4, the Xbox One, and the PC sometime in 2020. And Tim Schafer and the boys are hard at work over there working on Psychonauts 2, amongst other projects, now in collaboration with Microsoft, which they are owned by now, which is a pretty cool thing for the team. However, Modern Warfare is getting some gameplay today. Now, of course, this is a very hollow news story, one that is going to be filled in more tomorrow. Think of it like a blank coloring page, but hey, you can't color if you don't have the page. The reception to Infinity Ward's Call of Duty Modern Warfare has been somewhat divisive. Some are excited for the smash hit series to return to a more grounded setting, while others are concerned it may tread controversial territory for the sake of it. What we really need to see is some gameplay, and that is finally happening later today, although it's unlikely to answer the bigger questions. The developer has announced that 4 Twitch personalities, namely Legion, Syndicate, TP, and Courage, will be streaming Modern Warfare live from 10 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time, that's 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, or 6 p.m. BST. However, we won't be seeing the campaign. Instead, the influencers will be helping to debut Gunfight, a brand new 2v2 multiplayer mode. You will be able to tune into any of the aforementioned streamers' Twitch channels, as linked above, to check out not only the first public gameplay of Modern Warfare, but also the first footage of multiplayer. Other announcements are being teased as well, so it's probably worth checking out. And so, if you do want to see some gameplay for Call of Duty Modern Warfare, the reboot coming out on October the 25th of 2019, you can check that out later on today, again on the channels Legion, Syndicate, TP, and Courage, which are all fantastic individuals in the streaming space. But I'm excited about the new game mode. More so, I'm excited about seeing other kinds of multiplayer. But even on a grander scale, I'm excited to see the engine at work, because again, this is a brand new Call of Duty engine, the first in the series history. And so to see this kind of change coming really marks this year's Call of Duty as a definitive shift in the entire franchise, one that's very, very exciting for fans of the franchise like myself. This is the first Call of Duty in years that I am genuinely excited for. This is one that I will without a doubt be buying on day one. Even with Black Ops 4 and the games that have come previous to that, there just wasn't that same amount of excitement. With this, with the season pass being completely and totally eradicated and free updates coming out, with the brand new engine, with this more grounded setting, with a campaign, without zombies, because zombies is no pun intended, dying. This sounds like a Call of Duty campaign that knows what the other ones that have come before it have done wrong, or at least could do better, and they are taking advantage of that knowledge. It's a pretty exciting time. But if you do want to dive into the brand new Call of Duty gameplay, again happening today at 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, if you do want to dive in and check out the gameplay live, again on Legion's channel, Syndicate's channel, TP, and Courage, their channels as well. However, let's talk about Shenmue III, a game that I have no intention of playing, but so many people are excited about. Backers have to purchase a Season Pass and Deluxe Edition separately. They will also not receive pre-order content, much to fans' chagrin. This is a very poorly handled game. YesNet is once again under fire from its Kickstarter backers after it has emerged that donors will not be entitled to the bonus content added for Shenmue III's upcoming launch. In a comment under the last update on the Kickstarter page, backer Antonio Miranda claimed that he received an email from the Shenmue III team confirming that those who helped fund the project will not be entitled to certain content. In particular, the Season Pass for future DLC and additional content included in the Deluxe Edition will not automatically be sent to backers, but they can be purchased separately. In the case of the latter, players would likely have to purchase the Deluxe Edition. Meanwhile, several retailers are offering pre-order content, including a new outfit and training scroll, and these will not be available to Kickstarter backers either. GamesIndustry.biz reached out to YesNet for confirmation. Quote, standard and deluxe versions released through retail sales are not affiliated with the crowdfunding campaign, the Shenmue team wrote, according to Miranda. The email then points out that both Kickstarter and Slacker backers, pledgers, will receive their own editions, each with unique content not available in the retail editions. This has been met with several angry comments below and follows the backlash over the game's exclusivity to the Epic Games Store, which again many people were not happy with, and refunds are being issued if you did want one. It is worth noting that none of the Kickstarter supporter tiers mention promises of a Season Pass or the content added to the Deluxe Edition or pre-order offers. Also, of the game's 69,320 backers, around 50,000 have pledged $60 or less, which at most entitles them to a physical copy of Shenmue III on PC or PS4 with a backer-only case. A complex issue we have here with this specific scenario because, again, if you do have so many people paying less than $60, you can't give everybody the Season Pass and the full edition of the game, even though they are the ones that helped make the project happen. But it's also kind of shitty to go behind people's backs whenever they're supporting your project and make deals with these retailers to have specific exclusive content within specific exclusive editions of their game in specific exclusive stores. Exclusively. But it's just a shitty situation, man. You can't treat your Kickstarter backers like they are second-class citizens because, again, this game is only happening because of the fans. This game is only happening because people wanted it. And whenever you've got a developer that is reliant on fans like this to continue to make these big mistakes, like putting out these exclusive content packages, I guess is the best way to put it, to put the game out on the Epic Games Store instead of Steam and to not clarify where it's going to be during the process. It's a really, really weird situation and one that I think is being handled relatively poorly, especially with the sentiment of standard and deluxe versions released through retail are not affiliated with the crowdfunding campaign. I just don't know about that. I will say the one leg it does have to stand on is the fact that you do have exclusive content within the backer edition of the game. So, I mean, you do have that going for you, but at the same time, just a really, really messy situation with Shenmue 3, but hopefully the game will be worth it. I've seen a little bit of gameplay, some screenshots, if you will. It looks like a very pretty game. Again, one that I'm not super into, but I know a ton of people have been looking forward to this game for a very long time, and I'm glad to see it finally coming out regardless of whether it is going to be a big, big game or not. Also, before we wrap that up, I do want to say, to not tell people there's going to be a Season Pass, that's a little iffy as well, because that completely changes the game. Like I said with Modern Warfare, if there was a Season Pass for Modern Warfare, I would be on the fence about getting on board with Call of Duty Modern Warfare. But considering there's not, I'm all in. To make the assumption that there is no Season Pass for Shenmue 3 and then to have one, that changes the overall perspective of many of the people that are probably backing the project, which is not a good place to be in. But with that being said, that rounds out today's episode of Caffeinate. Of course, if you are brand new to the show, I do hope you enjoyed what I brought to the table, and you should click that subscribe button. You can always follow on twitch.tv/SamuelAdams, because the show is hosted live 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, but you can always catch it on youtube.com/SamuelAdamsMedia or podcast services around the world if you did want the audio version. But as for right now, you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. I am going to go salivate over the brand new Nintendo Switch Lite screenshots, and until next time, have a great one. Peace.